Now Bitcoin is having its worst bull run ever, and no one understands why, especially since the S&P 500 is making all-time highs. Gold is breaking out above $3,700, and the US dollar is absolutely melting down. This is why people are assuming the Bitcoin bull run is over. Today, we're going to be exploring this and much more, so you're going to want to stick around. And guys, Q4 is coming up, and if you guys have been around Bitcoin long enough, Q4 is extremely bullish for Bitcoin. Anyways, so why am I talking about this? Today, this has been circulating around Bitcoin Twitter, and it's comparing all of Bitcoin throughout Bitcoin's history, where Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin on September 15th, the yearly return. So it goes from 2011 to 2013 to 2017 to 2019 to 2012 to 2021 to 2023 to 2020, 2016, 2024, 2025, etc. And I think the reason that a lot of you guys might be feeling this, I actually tweeted this out this morning, kind of like as a joke, is because of this. And look, it comes down to this. Like, as Bitcoiners, we're used to these fantastic returns. We're used to these like 100% returns, 200% returns on a yearly basis. And if you were to tell someone, hey, you're going to get a 23% return on your investment yearly, they would be over the moon. It's actually a fantastic return, but as Bitcoiners, we are spoiled. But I think we all kind of have to come to terms a little bit with the fact that Bitcoin is a maturing market, the fact that it's being embraced by Wall Street, the fact that it's being embraced by the White House. You know, it's getting bigger. The market cap is over $2 trillion, right? It's a lot harder for Bitcoin to go from 2 trillion to 4 trillion than it was for Bitcoin to go from 100 billion to 200 billion, right? And it requires a lot more capital, it requires a lot more institutional flow. Also, talking a little bit about the treasury companies, they're not performing so well either. A lot of them are melting down. I believe Naka,
yeah, they're down like 85%.
Down like 85% since its introduction. Now, I have a feeling it's going to recover since when Bitcoin pumps. I think the treasury companies are kind of like this leverage play on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes down or if it goes sideways, I think the treasury companies are going to underperform. And if a Bitcoin pumps, I think the Bitcoin treasury companies possibly might overperform, right? So it's kind of like a leverage play. You know, take that as you will. But anyways, let's get back to today's topic. And today's title is very simple. You know, this is one of the worst Bitcoin bull runs in Bitcoin's history. And that's not an opinion. That is a fact. And this chart, for audio listeners, it takes it from 2011 to 2022. You know, I don't know how many years that is, but it's on the bottom end, man. It's on the bottom end. 2025 is not doing so hot. 2024, we are actually doing much better. So the year of the halving, Bitcoin was performing better than the year after the halving. And historically, Bitcoin tends to perform the best the year after the halving, right? And we're only up 23% this year. In the beginning of the year, Opti and I were over the moon. We were ecstatic. We were looking at the Trump administration. They were announcing the executive order, the Bitcoin strategic reserve. You know, we were having like over 1,000 people, you know, watching our live streams. It was, you know, it was boom, bam, bang. It was a celebration. And, you know, it's been 9 months of, you know, being literally in the trenches. And, you know, like, this is what 2025 has felt like, right? But the numbers speak for themselves. This isn't an opinion. This is a fact, right? Bitcoin through September 15th, right? So 2011, 1,500%. 2013, 823%, 2017, 281%, 2019, 179%, 2012, 148%, 2021, 66%, 2023, 61%, 2020, 50.4%, 2016, 41.3%, 2024, it's 40.1%, and 2025, 23%. Now, I think the reason that a lot of people are a little bit perplexed a little bit confused is because, again, the S&P is hitting all-time highs. The NASDAQ is hitting all-time highs. Gold is hitting all-time highs. And here's Will Panda. He says, Bitcoin 3 daily reds and massive underperformance across the board, but let's just pretend this is normal. He follows up and he says, ready for another day of massive underperformance of Bitcoin compared to literally everything else. But I'm sure that everyone who claims they have Bitcoin have Bitcoin. Oof. Kind of alluding to
shots fired.
A little bit of the paper Bitcoin type of situation. This is the theme of today's show, is this guy right here. But anyways, you guys are going to want to stick around because I do have something bullish for you guys. And take a look at the US dollar, right? The US dollar is down 10% this year. Rate cuts will lower interest in USD even further. Historically, a bullish setup for Bitcoin. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow is the FOMC meeting, and Powell, the betting markets are betting that 88% probability that he will be lowering rates by 25 basis points. Of course, this is very bullish for risk on assets. Bitcoin is still being seen by the market as a risk on asset. So, it could be a very, very positive day for Bitcoin tomorrow, depending on what Powell says. I expect definitely a little bit of a pump. But anyways, let's get to kind of the differences in monthly returns for Bitcoin. And it kind of lays it out since basically its inception. So you have 2013 to 2025. Historically, Septembers have not been that great overall, generally speaking. But October's, as you can see, I mean, it's one of the most bullish months of the year of Bitcoin's history, right? 60%, we get a 47% in there, 39%, 28% in October, and especially the years of bull markets, the year after the halving tend to be very, very bullish. Now, I'll show you guys this next thing. So after we get over September, again, the FOMC meeting, we all expect the basis cuts, Powell's going to lower interest rates, which again is very bullish for risk on assets. The job reports, did you see that change, which was absolutely crazy, that they actually reported that there wasn't that many job increases during the previous administration? And again, the responsibility of the Fed is to control unemployment and to control the inflation rate, right? So if unemployment is a little bit higher than expected, you expect the Fed to react accordingly, right? I think this year has been a civil war. There's been like a little civil war going on within D.C. Between the Federal Reserve and the Trump administration. We have Fed presidents, or Fed governors, better said, resigning. You have Trump putting pressure on another Fed governor to resign as well. And then next year, Trump might take over the Federal Reserve, which he's been hinting of, by appointing the next Fed governor. So we're going to see that. We're completely in uncharted territory. We're going to see what happens. And this might be an extended bull market. But anyways, I said I was going to show you guys something bullish. I was not lying. And here, let's check out the quarterly returns of Bitcoin. And this is where things get interesting. So we have a kind of depressing start of the year, starting with only a 23% return. Again, in the grand scheme of things, that's a fantastic return. If you get a 23% return in anything on a yearly basis, you're doing phenomenal. You're doing fantastic. But us Bitcoiners, we're spoiled. We're spoiled. Opti and I were class of 2016, 2017. We're used to 23% in a day, right? So, 23% in 9 months, me and Opti are just scratching each other like, dude, like, what the F is going on? And we start to feel a little bit like this, right? Just why I keep pulling this up, because I think it's very appropriate. But anyways, so going back to this, this is Bitcoin's quarterly returns. And I think this is where it's the most fitting, right? So let's talk about it. Usually, most of the time, Bitcoin's quarterly returns tend to be fantastically green. I think, look at 2017, man, up 11%, 123%, 80%, and finished strong with 215%. I don't know if we're going to get that, but look at 2020, 43%, 17%, 168%. 2021, 103%, down 40%. 2020, up 25%, up 5%. And then the bear market year of 2022, which was brutal. And then last year, which was pretty fantastic, started the year with Q1 2024, 68% up. Q2, 12% up almost. Q3, 1% up. And then Q4, 47.73% up. And again, Q1 of this year down 11%. That was when the Trump meme coin mania, so to speak. Q2 up 29%. Q3 7.45%. And here is what everybody is waiting for. If Bitcoin kind of follows its historical performance, we should have an explosive end of Q4, kind of coiling it up. You know, we've been coiling it up. Bitcoin tends to be kind of this lagging. It lags gold by about 100 days. Gold has been in performing incredibly. So if that continues to be the case, you know, Bitcoin should catch up within 100 days of gold's performance. But I think everybody is waiting and anticipating Q4 to be a fantastic quarter for Bitcoin. Let's see. And if it doesn't, the cycle breaks. The cycle theory breaks, and I think that's where everybody's anticipating. Now, I've been talking to a lot of people. I mean, I guess that's kind of like my job, right? And a lot of people are speculating and saying that, hey, we might have an extended bull market. We're actually waiting for, you know, it kind of Bitcoin's bull market going into 2026. People are predicting that. Now, that's never happened before. Usually, we should have already peaked by now. If you look at every other cycle, Bitcoin should have already peaked by now. So we are already kind of in uncharted territory if Bitcoin is to make an all-time high. Another thing that I'll say is, if it does correct, I don't think we're going to get 80% correction or 50% correction or 60% correction, because for that to happen, you need the parabola. You need this kind of euphoria phase, which I don't think we've ever entered. Like, we've had little tastes of it, but we haven't really entered a euphoria phase in Bitcoin's history. I mean, in this let me correct that. In this Bitcoin cycle. Now, to be fair, we are up about 600% since the bottom. So, I mean, I think that's a fantastic return. So it's not completely terrible. But, you know, again, this is after, this is 3 years. The 3 years to go up 600%, right? So, you know, let's see what happens. People in the chat, let's check out some of these comments. I just want to take a look at them. Someone is saying every cycle, same story. Jeremy says gold hitting new all-time highs has to say something. Let's see what else is it. Nico, bite your tongue. We should have already. And let's see. November is my first year anniversary of being orange pilled. Who else here has been in it for less than a year? Node wars are having an effect. I don't know about that. Gold is leading Bitcoin. Bitcoin strap on. And yeah, Q4. Let's see. Pep Bismo says Q4 2024, 48% was because Powell rate cuts pre-election results supposed to be for a Biden win. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting too. Like, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, you know, the Fed definitely has been acting, in my personal opinion, has been acting a little bit politically. Not a little bit, very politically. You can see their fingerprints were all over Operation Choke Point 2.0. I think they've been, you know, Trump calls Powell too late Powell. I kind of agree with that a little bit. You know, and it's supposed to be an independent institution, so to speak. It has not been acting like that whatsoever. But Opti, I want to get your take on this, bro. And I'm going to pull this picture up because I think it's really fitting for anyone who has experienced the 2025 one. You know, it kind of feels like this, you know, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into this, right? So, you know, in war, like one of the worst things about it is that you spend a lot of time doing absolutely nothing, right? And then you go from absolutely nothing to, you know, just things get chaotic, things get crazy, right? So it's the waiting in between that I think drives a lot of people crazy. It drives, you know, it creates a lot of uncertainty. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Opti. Like, you know, where are we, dude? You've been in the trenches literally with me, growing this channel together since the very, very beginning. And I got to say, man, 2025 has been one of the most fantastic years from a you know, news perspective. We've had so much to cover, the strategic Bitcoin reserve, all this news that's happening all at once. But from a price action perspective, I've been saying this, we've been getting a lot of heat for it. The numbers do not lie. Like, they're right there. Anyone could, don't trust me, verify this yourself. From a numbers perspective, this is the worst performing up until September. Of course, to be fair, up until September 15th, this has been one of the worst performing years in Bitcoin's history. Only topped by 2015, 2014, 2018, and 2022.
All like bear years.
All bear years. So it's, you know, it hasn't acted like a year after the halving. But again, what I will say is, you know, if you look at this, we are lined up for potentially an explosive Q4. If it doesn't happen, if Bitcoin continues to go sideways in Q4, I think that's when we're in uncharted territory, and everyone's going to be losing their minds, because we have never been in that type of situation in Bitcoin's history. I think at that point, it will be safe. Did someone just drop a Bitcoin address in the thing?
Yeah.
What are you trying to accomplish there, bro? Yeah, I mean, that is uncharted territory. I think that's what everyone's kind of expecting Q4. Even Michael Saylor is saying, you know, a lot of analysts are predicting 150K Bitcoin by the end of the year. But it's kind of cope, in my opinion, Opti. It's cope, bro, because, you know, I was tweeting 500K Bitcoin in the beginning of the year. American HODL was saying 2017 vibes. And here we are at the end. The person who put the Bitcoin address is like, send me some BTC, bro. Earn it, dude. So what I will say is, like, you know, what I will say is I think it underperformed. I know that's unpopular with some people. Some people are saying, like, hey, listen, like, you know, the Bitcoin's done fantastic. We have all this institutional inflows, but like, I'm kind of on the fence with, I'm kind of on the side of Whale Panda. Like, okay, fantastic institutional inflows. The president's son actually took a company public. I have the video for you guys. So, I mean, like, again, the president's son taking a public, all these institutional inflows. You know, the president owns the 6th largest Bitcoin treasury company. Bomb, bing, bomb, boo, whoop-de-doo. But, like, here we are. You know, here we are 9 months later, and Bitcoin's gone up 23%, right? So is it paper Bitcoin, Opti? Like, is this paper Bitcoin? It's not even paper Bitcoin summer anymore. It's paper Bitcoin winter. That sounds even more depressing. God damn, paper Bitcoin winter, bro. And then I'll pull up some more charts regarding the treasury company, because they're not doing so hot either. So Opti, I know I've been ranting for a while. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. I've been all over the world. Been in Europe, went to South America, finally back home. I think we're going to be back in South America this weekend, actually. But yeah, Opti, want to get your thoughts, man. Like, what's going on with this? I'm going to pull this up so you can add your commentary. And this is what we were talking about, dude. We were getting this. We're like, Nico, you got to be grateful. Like, it's doing so well. It's doing so well. Like, what's going on? Like, that doesn't look too hot for me, Opti. What do you, bro?
Okay, so first of all, as we've been saying, I'm glad someone, put this all together, because we have been saying for throughout the whole year, this is the most bullish news cycle in regards to Bitcoin. It seems like every other day there's another incredible news story, but nothing's going on in the price. And looking at this chart, it is a little depressing. And someone said it in the chat that I think is probably the most spot on take here. Is like, it's incredible that an asset going up 23% year to date is underperforming for us, because like that's how spoiled we are in Bitcoin. You're so used to these incredible gains at a 23% return. You're like, what? We don't even wake up for this. If it moves 23%, it means nothing to us. We're just like, okay, it's just like whatever. You see this happen in weeks, let alone to see this happen in 9 months. It is probably a good barometer of what we've all been feeling. And I know a lot of people are like, we're not here just for the fiat price. Guys, as I've been saying, and I get flack for this all the time, the Bitcoin price is one of the most metrics. I know there's a lot of other aspects of Bitcoin that are super important. Of course, censorship resistance, freedom money, the 1 million hard cap, et cetera, et cetera. But when you understand that, yeah, I know the fiat price, it's hard to really gauge, because we're gauging Bitcoin against something that's losing purchasing power. As we saw, the dollar strength has lost 10% this year, which is absolutely insane. So even if you look at it just on the face of things, Bitcoin only increasing 23% year to date. Yeah, that might be underperforming compared to every other run here. And it is interesting looking at this chart. This is the worst bull run. And the only other times that it's done worse is during bear market years when the price is dumping.
It's not a bull run, Opti.
Well, hold on. That's where my point really starts to really rear its head here. It's like, look, okay. Just think of it this way. Bitcoin only went up 23%. The dollar has lost 10%. We're seeing gold run. We're seeing S&P 500 hit new all-time highs. And so the markets are getting really frothy right now. And I think they are expecting, or rather pricing in, a rate cut, which we will see what happens tomorrow. And we'll see if this is all concrete. And if it is, then I think what Nico said earlier is the signal here. There is a lot of uncertainty. I've been saying this. I'm a broken record at this point, because people are waiting on the sidelines right now to kind of figure out what the markets are going to do before they deploy their capital. But once these signals do become official, then the capital will be deployed. And so even though as of today, we're only seeing a 23% increase in Bitcoin, and we're all kind of depressed, and whether you accept it or not, or rather whether you acknowledge that this is why everyone is freaking out right now is because the price isn't running, we all know when the price is stagnant or going down, Bitcoiners fight each other. When it goes up, we're ecstatic. But I don't think that this is where the percentage returns are going to end by the end of the year. There's still a lot of year left, especially when you consider that Q4 is historically the best returns. And so, Nico, will you pull up the CoinGlass chart? Because there is some interesting numbers there. All right, if you look at the bottom, zoom in down here on the bottom of the Q4 one. These returned, and yeah, here, actually, go look at the Q1s. All right, so the median return for Q1, negative 1.46. I mean, I think we felt that this year. The median return for Q2, 7.5%. The median return, what is this? In Q3 is maybe 1%. And then the returns come in Q4, 50+%. So if we see something similar play out the end of this year, I'm sure we're all going to look back and be like, okay, this year wasn't a complete waste. This is good to go. What's 50% from here? Like 150 by the end of the year. I'm sure we'll be ecstatic about that. And then it's still not writing out the fact that this could still pump into Q6, or sorry, 2026 and Q1, Q2. We're still in this era, or rather this view right now, where we're not sure if the cycle is playing out like it used to. Nico was showing me, I don't know what chart you were showing me earlier, but Nico was sitting there like, man, if Bitcoin does follow the old patterns, the cycle should be over by now. And personally, I don't think it's really started yet. I think the craziness that we expect Bitcoin to do is going to happen Q4. And here, yeah, show this chart. This chart is even more depressing than the first chart we showed, because Bitcoin is, like everyone's saying, Opti turned Bitcoin into a stable coin. Hey guys, it's not my fault here, okay? But it does look like a stable coin. It's just a very slow upward trend. No more parabolic runs, but I think end of Q4, or sorry, this Q4 time frame is where, yeah. And which one is this pink one, or purple, or whatever
By the
color?
way, shout out to Into the Cryptoverse. This is part of his thing.
So even if we're going just on dates here, bull market cycle bottoms, what's it say, ROI? This is a worst performing cycle period. And it's still just a slow, gradual climb up. But I do believe the next 3 months is where the craziness is going to happen. Again, we are most likely going to see rate cuts. If we don't see rate cuts tomorrow, then, I think that's a totally different conversation, and we'll have to revise.
We're going to dump so hard.
Yeah, if there's no rate cuts, I think we're in for a lot of volatility. But if we do get
to the downside.
Yeah, if we do get the rate cuts and we're starting to see the ETF inflows come in, we're starting to see the institutions deploy capital, and, my kind of bullish take on the Bitcoin treasury companies, though I do believe that long term they will figure this out. There was kind of some hype in those stocks and those equities, and they made a lot of money if they sold the top. But I think what is interesting about the treasury plays right now is if that hype bubble is popping right now, then maybe that's going to kind of dissuade investors from investing into these stocks, and then maybe they're going to go straight into spot Bitcoin, and that's really when the price is going to go crazy. And so now we have, the summer clearing out. People are coming back to work. They're going to start deploying capitals. They're getting the market signals to confirm their decisions, which is if we get rate cuts tomorrow, then they're going to continue to rip into quote-unquote risky assets. And I think what we're seeing in gold is probably the biggest signal of what's going on. Gold is hitting an all-time high. This morning it hit 3,700. It's probably still ripping. I haven't seen it since we started the show. But this is probably the biggest signal in the market that people are looking for alternatives. And if that's the case, and Bitcoin does start ripping with this 100-day delay that it usually has, I think blow off top in Q4 of this year is still completely in play. So yes, it's been a slow start of the year, but I don't think we're going to end the year at a 23% gain. I think we're going to go higher than that. So I think it's setting up really nicely for a solid Q4 like historically we've seen. But who knows? We really don't know what's going on in the markets right now until we get our signals tomorrow. And yes, this is me coping.
We are going to get a higher than a 23%. I saw Magoo saying that because of this, we peaked already.
Yeah, that's a bull top indicator for sure. Bull market top indicator. I want to see the memes of tapping the button.
Oh man, guys, we have a fantastic show. I'm happy to be back finally, and I hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. So yes, to kind of summarize what we were talking about during the intro segment, in case you guys missed it, in case you guys are just tuning in. First of all, smash the like button. You are listening to Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched Bitcoin only live show on planet Earth. So smash that like button if you guys are enjoying it. Shout out to the Rumble audience, shout out to the YouTube audience, and shout out to the X audience. We really appreciate your support. We would not be on air if it wasn't for you guys. So really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the love and the support that we all get. But before we move on, I do want to do a quick summary of what we were talking about. Guys, let's see. We're heading into uncharted territory. Will Q4 be a bullish quarter for Bitcoin? Historically, it has always been the most bullish quarter for Bitcoin since Bitcoin's inception.
So just buckle in for 2 weeks.
The median return for Q4 in Bitcoin has been 52%. The average return has been 85%. So if Bitcoin continues that historical pattern, Opti is absolutely right, and we should have a fantastic performance by Bitcoin heading into Q4 of 2025. We shall see. If it doesn't happen, we're in completely uncharted territory. We've never been in this before. My gut feeling, my intuition also is that, guys, I think we might have an extended bull market. I would not be surprised if heading into 2026, at least Q1 of 2026, the bull market continues, right? I was showing you guys this picture. Look, if you are to take a look at this, we already peaked. We already hit the top. If you take a look at this, we already hit the top.
Depressing.
Right? So, yeah, we don't know. We shall see. And just to kind of give a little bit of a glimpse on how the treasury companies are doing, they're not doing so hot either. Here's Peruvian Bull. It says Nakamoto, a Bitcoin holding company, following the Saylor strategy, collapsed 55% today and is down 71% this week. Things are not going well in the Bitcoin treasury world. Yes, I think everyone is feeling the pain. Everyone is saying, hey, wait a second. They're looking at their clocks and they're saying, wait, bro, we should be pumping by now. What's going on? What's going on with Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin getting boring? So anyways, guys, we are going to see what happens in Q4. Hold on to your pants. 2 more weeks to go. And let's see if the fireworks commence once again. And it could make up for all of, this sideways action that we've experienced in 2025. Let's see if Q4 makes up for just that. Anyways, before we start the show, guys, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. The reason we recommend it here at Simply Bitcoin is that it's automatic self-custody. That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. To get started, scan the QR code on your screen, put in your email. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up, and bada bing, bada boom, you are ready to buy Bitcoin. Use promo code SIMPLY, and you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. We're going to be giving away some sats towards the end of the show. If you're a high net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, or you're part of a family office, a trust, an organization, you have to book a call with the Bitcoin Well Infinite team. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. It's a tailored white glove service that will help you buy Bitcoin directly into self-custody. All right, everybody, no more delay. Let's start the show. We have tons to talk about today. We have an amazing, fantastic article written by Alex Gladstein talking about how President Trump is not the Bitcoin president. He apparently is the stablecoin president, which that's some very interesting words used by Gladstein. So we're going to be covering that article today. And then I have a fantastic bullish video for you guys by Arthus Hayes. And he's talking about where Bitcoin is going and the potential it has left. So anyways, guys, let's jump straight into the show. We will be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back, guys, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $116,540. We back, and we're pumping. Block height 914,000. You're jinxing it. 914,983. That's the block height. Sats per dollar 858 sats per dollar, under 1,000. Love that. Market cap 2.3 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, it's sitting at 8.88%, decline from all-time high, negative 6.4%. Realized monetary inflation 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we're just getting the party started. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, everyone's paying attention to tomorrow. Tomorrow is the FOMC meeting, and everyone is expecting, everyone's talking about, will the Fed cut rates on Wednesday? See 5 economic charts that may determine its decision. So anyways, they're looking at the federal funds rate versus the CPI, monthly change in jobs in the U.S., and how does the Fed compare with other central banks? Other central banks are cutting like crazy, like the European Central Bank, the UK. The US is the only one that's been kind of holding it. And how are American consumers holding up? Many Americans are souring on the economy, feeling pressure by higher costs for everything from housing to groceries. Credit card delinquencies, 0.7%. U.S. average 30-year fixed rate mortgage, 6.4%. Anyways, so the betting markets are predicting that it's actually up to a 96% confidence. Wow. 96% confidence. The betting markets are predicting with 96% that Jerome Powell will cut at least by 25 basis points. The second is 50 basis points with 3%, no change with 2%. Also, it seems like the markets are pricing in December, also a 25 basis points cut as well. And again, this is incredibly bullish for what people perceive as risk on assets. Anyways, Arthus Hayes kind of agrees with us a little bit in the sense that he believes that the 4-year cycle are over. This is a clip of him on a popular podcast with Kyle Chase. And I'll play the clip, and then of course me and Opti will talk about it. Let's check it out.
If the consumer runs out of cash, what does the American consumer do when they don't have money? They borrow it. And so if I reduce the cost of money, then you can borrow more. And so I think that's why the price of money in this instance matters. So I think that's a very short-sighted sort of explanation if you sort of believe that the Fed's going to start cutting rates and Trump is going to unlock all this liquidity on Fed balance sheets in the mortgage market. And Bitcoin is the best performing asset when you think about currency debasement ever. When you talk to a TradFi person and sort of really get down to what they believe, what do they believe? They believe the same things that we believe. They believe that when something happens, the Fed, the Treasury, the BOJ, the ECB, the PBOC, the SNB, they will print money. And what happens when they print money? They buy bonds. So it's not that we have a difference of opinion. We believe the same things. We believe the money will be printed. It's just that we in crypto choose an asset that performs better. It doesn't matter that the S&P is at 6,700 or whatever it is. It's still down in gold terms from the crisis. So I think people need to readjust their perspective on this. I think that people are underpricing the upside in equities, in crypto, and everything. They don't realize how badly all these governments need to print money. Yes, it's going to end in absolute Armageddon at the end of the cycle, whenever that is, but I don't think we're there yet. And therefore, I don't believe in the 4-year cycle. I believe that we can continue ripping through, $150, $175, $200,000 Bitcoin because of this massive macro overlay of what is happening right now between now and the end of the decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Arthus Hayes himself. He's kind of agreeing with Michael Saylor's thesis. There are no more cycles anymore, Optimus Fields. How do you feel about that, my bro?
Super cycle confirmed.
I mean, let's just get to 150K first. Like that's kind of my attitude right now.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I just let's just make it out of the year first, and then we can get stupidly bullish in the new year. But what Arthur is saying is kind of what I've been saying on the show for a while. The only reason that I've really delved into macro stuff is because of exactly what Arthur Hayes says. It's the macro landscape that we're seeing right now. Things are shifting, and Bitcoin has a place in the total macro landscape. We're no longer just relegated to a small corner of the internet. It's no longer just retail that's driving Bitcoin. It's no longer just the FOMO that drives the Bitcoin price. What we're seeing is, as many Bitcoiners and people have been saying, a fundamental monetary reordering happening in real life. And you're seeing this coming down from the Trump administration. You're seeing this happen globally after they talk about Bitcoin. And of course, us Bitcoiners have been ready for this for a long time. Now, I know a lot of Bitcoiners don't like the macro talk because they just think it's, they just think it's fluff. It's like, why do we have to care about the macro markets when we're Bitcoiners? Like, I thought we got out of those markets, or we got into Bitcoin so we don't have to talk about them. And I totally agree with that. But I think what is the most interesting aspect of all of this right now is that as Bitcoin grows and as Bitcoin does enter the global conversation, it will be affected by these different factors. And if we're seeing what is potentially on the horizon tomorrow, these Fed rate cuts, all of the money, as Arthur's saying, is going to have to find a new home. And assets and equities, as we're seeing, S&P 500 is hitting all-time high. Gold's hitting all-time highs. Bitcoin it's got some life back into it. It's kind of ripping right now. It's almost at 117. So you're starting to see the markets are either pricing in a rate cut and expecting cheaper money. And as Arthur explained, if the price of lending goes down, if the interest rates get cut again, or rather get cut, then more people, if people are struggling, they're going to need to take out loans, which essentially is expanding the money supply. They're creating new money, and liquidity will drive Bitcoin. So I'm also on the side that all these factors are showing us that this cycle, quote unquote, might break in real terms. And so is it going to be prolonged? We obviously won't be able to know. 2020 will be hindsight, but it is starting to make me feel extremely bullish that all of these factors are lining up perfectly. And again, not only a solid Q4, but I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, we probably will be pumping into the beginning of 2026, because if we do get a later stage parabolic run, then I don't think it's going to stop as quickly as the other ones had, because we're starting to see there is this unlimited bid for Bitcoin, whether it's nation states, whether it's institutions. It's no longer just driven by the animal spirits of retail. And so this is a fundamental shift in the investor thesis of Bitcoin. And it is starting to seem like, okay, it took 9 months for people to wrap their head around what is actually going on in Bitcoin. And if they're now coming back vacation, as the meme goes, sell in May and go away, and now they're going to come back in force, it could fundamentally just keep us pumping into 2026. I'm not saying we're not going to see another bear market. I'm just saying it might not be as dramatic as we've seen in the past. And so, hey, I'm with Arthur. I think we are all underestimating how high things can rip. I know there's a lot of numbers in TradFi macro markets, like, oh, if S&P 500 hits this number, or Bitcoin or gold hits this number, then it's going to correct. Like, our TA charts out there, our tea leaf readings, I don't think have an effect in the face of what we're seeing happen right now. The markets are either they're going to crater or they're going to just go absolutely nuclear to the upside. And obviously my bull case is it's nuclear to the upside. So I'm with Arthur on this. I think we're all have PTSD still, and we're traumatized about what's going on with Bitcoin. And it's going to be a good end of the year, Nico.
Hopefully, man. I do. I'm starting to lean towards we might have an extended bull market. If Bitcoin doesn't pump in Q4 of 2025, again, we're in uncharted territory right now. But the positive about all that is I don't think we're going to have these crazy corrections anymore. We have not entered the euphoria phase. Like, that's a fact. Like, retail's completely asleep. They don't even know Bitcoin exists. So yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. Again, we're in uncharted territory so far. because if Bitcoin pumps in Q4 of 2025, we're right back on track. Like nothing has changed, right? So let's see. Q4 is the determining factor. And then another thing that I think we should all be paying attention to as well is what is going to be happening to Bitcoin as we head into Q1 of 2026. A lot of very intelligent people are saying, hey, look, this is going to continue. This is going to keep on pumping. So we're going to see. We're going to be paying attention. Anyways, guys, regardless, we're going to be covering it here on Simply Bitcoin. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. Shout out to Rumble, by the way. Just broke 12,000 subscribers on Rumble. So shout out to the Rumble audience. Appreciate all the love. Shout out, of course, to the YouTube audience, 100,000 subscribers strong, 543 people watching live. And, of course, shout out to the X audience, which is always coming in very strong. This person keeps dropping their Bitcoin address, saying, come on, bro, send me some Bitcoin. That's hilarious. Bro, just earn it, dude. Earn it like the rest of us.
Dude, he's earning it in the chat.
He's earning it. He's panhandling in the chat. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. We have tons to cover. There's an excellent article by Alex Gladstein. Donald Trump is not the Bitcoin president on Reason.com. So we're going to be, let's see if we can get through some of it. But he's basically making the case that, listen, it's stable coins that are really benefiting. So anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a second. We're going to hit the news segment.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. Let's talk about, I don't know what's going on here, man.
Yeah, guys, are we lagging on YouTube?
Yeah, we
I
definitely
think Nico's computer's dying on us.
Definitely are. Anyways, so I do want to talk about this article, ladies and gentlemen. And this is not my words. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Trump administration. But this is Alex Gladstein, and he says, Donald Trump is not the Bitcoin president. He is the stablecoin president seeking to expand the monetary power and borrowing capacity of the U.S. government. Donald Trump took the stage about an hour and a half behind schedule. The Secret Service needed to secure the room, but the audience didn't seem to mind. The once and future president waited for Lee Greenwald's God Bless the USA to come to its rousing finish, mouthed the song final lyric, walked to the podium, and smiled, "Hello, Bitcoiners." Trump had arrived at the 2024 Bitcoin conference in Nashville, seeking the support of a movement that once had seemed like a radical fringe, but now was entering the mainstream. Quote, I stand before you today filled with respect and admiration for what the Bitcoin community has achieved. Trump had once sounded like a typical politician when opining on the topic. I'm not a fan of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, he tweeted in 2019, adding that they're not money, highly volatile. But on the 2024 campaign trail, he changed his mind. He goes on to say, this is Trump's words, I pledge to the Bitcoin community that the day I take the oath of office, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, anti-crypto crusade will be over. It goes on to say, in his first year back in office, Trump did indeed reverse President Biden's anti-crypto crusade. This felt like a boot off the throat, according to Andreessen. Trump freed Silk Road founder, Bitcoin pioneer Ross Ulbricht. He named Sachs his AI and crypto czar. His new SEC commissioner, Paul Atkins, launched Project Crypto, an initiative to provide the industry with regulatory clarity. This summer, the president signed the Genius Act, which established a legal framework for stablecoins, making them a tool of U.S. economic policy. Beyond freeing Ulbricht, none of these policies has much to do with Bitcoin's potential to separate money from state and to create a, quote, new territory of freedom. In the words of the technology's pseudonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, indeed, Trump's Justice Department has attacked developers who are working on cryptographic ways to improve Bitcoin's privacy. The president doesn't want to replace the U.S. dollar. He wants to strengthen it. He hopes the dollar, quote, dominates the future, as he told the crowd in Nashville. But Bitcoin is designed to create an open global currency where governments and individuals are on equal footing. It's a borderless voluntary monetary network with no national affiliation. One of the most famous Bitcoin memes shows two characters from The Matrix, with Neo asking Morpheus, what are you trying to tell me, that I could trade my Bitcoin for millions someday? Morpheus responds with, no, Neo, what I'm trying to tell you is that when you're ready, you won't have to. Stablecoins, by contrast, are a way to expand the dollar's hegemony and network effect. Trump isn't the Bitcoin president. He is the stablecoin president. Opti, before I move on, this is something that you've been saying for a little bit. Do you have any commentary there?
Well, first of all, I do like Alex Gladstein. But he has been very biased against Trump. And though I do agree with this statement that Trump is essentially the stablecoin president, it's hard to ignore the fundamental shift, the vibe shift that we've seen happen around Bitcoin because of Donald Trump. Though, to his point, I do definitely agree that it's no coincidence that the first thing they did, well, after, announcing the SBR and freeing Ross, that the first real legislation to get pushed through was a stablecoin bill. And to his points in this article, or the first part of this article, before we break down the stablecoin president segment, he has very clearly said this basically exact thing, is like, yes, they want to maintain dollar dominance. And though this is taking a negative bent, I think what is kind of on our horizons, and a lot of Bitcoiners don't really like it, is that we are going into like a bimetal era here, in the sense that there will be the dollars and there will be Bitcoin. As we've seen in the past, there was gold and there was silver, or as we've seen in the recent future, or recent, present memory of essentially, the dollars and I guess a little bit of gold, as we saw was the case in the earliest 20th century, that's how things work, the monetary order worked. Well, as much as I believe that someday, probably not in our lifetimes, but at some point, Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency, it will be the base currency in the world, I think the steps to get there are going to be more of a bimetallism kind of perspective, where you're going to see countries either embrace Bitcoin, or you'll see countries continue to use the dollar, or you'll see kind of this, I don't know, symbiotic relationship where they will embrace Bitcoin and the dollar, because there's still, people aren't sure who's going to win. And so as much as I do believe that Bitcoin will eventually take over, we are seeing that we're entering like a bimetallism kind of new era, though it's not bimetallism, it's just a Bitcoin dollar, symbiotic relationship. And so, yes, they are pushing through stablecoin legislation because they do want to strengthen the dollar. As I've been telling you guys for a while, publicly, the Trump administration will tell you, we want a very strong dollar. What is the data showing us? Dixie dollar strength has down 10%. They want this to happen. Also, if they do cut interest rates, they're doing exactly what Mark Moss has coined the Mar-a-Lago Accords, where they want to lower the strength of the dollar, they want to lower interest rates, and of course, they need a new buyer of treasuries. And who's the biggest buyer of treasuries? Is, of course, stablecoin. So it's no coincidence that the stablecoin bill was the first thing to get passed through. Though the part of this that is interesting is just all of the buying that Trump and his family have done in Bitcoin. They bought billions of dollars of Bitcoin. They just launched a company going public on NASDAQ today. So as much as you want to paint him as, quote, the stablecoin president, or even, the shitcoiner president, he launched a shitcoin. Like, you can't ignore these facts, but he's also in that very same lane embracing Bitcoin because he needs Bitcoin. He can't just go, oh, I'm pro stablecoins and not pro Bitcoin. This is why it's all getting kind of lumped together, is this whole crypto digital asset push. And so whether he just embraces stablecoins and just uses Bitcoin as like the wrapper for this, I think this is still a win for Bitcoin because, hey, you can't have stablecoins without Bitcoin. We know Tether, they're literally all Bitcoiners. Like, they take all their profits and they roll it into Bitcoin. So as much as they think the stablecoins are going to save them and essentially be able to pay off their debt, I don't think it's going to play out exactly like that. I think only those that with Bitcoin will continue to prosper moving forward. And so, yeah, you can name him the stablecoin president. But again, we're 9 months into his last presidency. I think there's still a lot of time. There's still a lot of time left on the clock for him to fully embrace Bitcoin. But we're seeing from the institutions, they are pivoting 100% on their Bitcoin stance. And there will need to be some time for all of this to really get parse through markets. And so we're still early in this, I think. So I think as of now, you can troll and call him the stablecoin president, but I don't think it's fair to necessarily label him and stamp him as the stablecoin president forever. Personally, they're buying a bunch. The Trump media, the Trump children with Bitcoin companies. I'm still holding out my full official take on him, but it's no coincidence that stablecoins were the first push, and we kind of know why this is what they're doing. So yeah, I can call him the stablecoin president for now. But let's read a little more of this article because I didn't actually get time to cover the whole article yet, Nico.
So it continues to say, Trump's Nashville speech discussed Bitcoin interchangeably with crypto, but Bitcoin is fundamentally different with other cryptocurrencies. It runs on a decentralized peer-to-peer software network, an issuance schedule that by design can't be tampered with by centralized authorities. It provides a way to send value over the internet without trusting third-party intermediaries. Like the gold standard, it is a neutral monetary system unlike gold. It has no physical properties, making it harder to seize or censor. If Bitcoin fully succeeds, governments will no longer be able to steal from their citizens by printing money, and they'll no longer be able to cut off people from payment networks or banking services. Crypto, on the other hand, typically describes a set of centralized issued tokens, usually administered by foundations, neobanks, and tech companies. Most crypto projects are outright scams or pyramid schemes. Most have failed to find real-world adoption. The major exception is stablecoins, which have emerged as the crypto industry's killer application. They work like casino chips. A stablecoin company issues $100 worth of digital dollar tokens, and simultaneously backs them with $100 of high-quality assets, typically U.S. Treasuries. It goes on to say, when signing the law, Trump said that stablecoins are really strengthening the dollar and giving the dollar great prominence. And he's right. Stablecoins expands Washington's monetary policy power, which we've been telling you guys over the last couple of months, and reach by expanding the dollar's network effect in dozens of countries and helping to shore up demand for U.S. debt. Stablecoins, which initially emerged as a novel technology to facilitate Bitcoin exchanges, access to dollar liquidity, have evolved into a tool of state power. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the article right there. Me and Opti are going to kind of go back and forth and discuss this. Look, yes, the part that I think caught a lot of Bitcoiners off guard is, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm a free market maximalist, right? Like, I like the free market. And the free market has told me that stable coins are popular. They're being widely adopted. That's the reality. The thesis that Bitcoiners had was, Bitcoin, it was going to be adopted in countries that had high inflation rates. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Like, and we have to be very serious about that, because, like, fundamentally, like, do you want this top-down enforcement of Bitcoin? Do you want people to be forced to use Bitcoin, or do you want people to adopt Bitcoin because it's better money? What we've seen over the last couple of years was this mass adoption of stablecoins, because it's a lot easier for someone that lives in a developing country that has double-digit inflation to adopt something that has relative stability. They don't have to go through the loops and all the things of having to open a bank account, which some people can't, depending on where you're born and what country you are and all the red tape that comes along with it. And they wanted to, and the market has shown that people really want stable coins, especially in the global south. That is a reality. That is the truth. Of course, the U.S. government is going to try to capitalize on that. It's fantastic for them. That's a great way for them to be able to kick the can down the road. Now, here's where I think the article, and again, I respect Alex Gladstein tremendously. I think he's done a lot of great work for the industry. However, what I will say is, like, I think Trump has done super good things for Bitcoin. Like, ending Operation Choke Point 2.0 was fantastic. Differentiating the strategic Bitcoin reserve versus the crypto stockpile was fantastic. Ending the pressure on the publicly traded Bitcoin miners was fantastic. It was all great. So I think the Trump administration was night and day way better than the previous administration. Now, does that mean it's perfect? No. Can I blame the U.S. government for wanting to maintain this kind of dollar hegemony and this dollar dominance? No, of course not. I mean, like, that's what they depend on. Like, they spend more money than they collect in tax revenue every single year. They depend on that, on being able to print money. So, like, am I surprised that, they're using stable coins in order to, like, continue, the status quo? Absolutely not. But two things could be true at the same time. I think the Trump administration has done wonders for the Bitcoin industry. Is it perfect? No. I don't like some of the wording that's coming out of Treasury regarding privacy. There's some things that I have problems with. The strategic Bitcoin reserve, it went from we're going to pass it to Bo Hines is going to resign, and now he's joining, Tether, and now they're launching the USAT coin or whatever, stable coin. So, like, it's not perfect, but at the same time, like, guys, like, we are free market maximalists. We are free market maximalists. And what the free market is saying is that in the global south, people have a huge demand for the dollar, and they can't get access to bank accounts. So what do? They get access to the dollar by Tether. That's the reality. You can't if it was different, it would be the global South has this huge demand for Bitcoin and they're adopting Bitcoin like crazy. That's not what's happening in the global South. That's not what's happening. So I blame the US government for trying to capitalize on that? No. Now, here's the silver lining. I think stablecoins are a Trojan horse for Bitcoin. Let me tell you why. It gives people the exposure to a non-sovereign alternative. So for the first time, they can access and use money by just downloading a digital wallet. How long until they realize that the dollar loses purchasing power just as much as their local currency? How long until they realize that? We've already realized that in the West. If you live in Europe, if you live in the United States, why do you think the United States is the country with the most Bitcoin adoption? Why do you think it is? Because we have the dollar here. We know the dollar is probably losing like 10% in purchasing power on a yearly basis. We know the American dream isn't possible if you're living on a US dollar fiat standard. We know this is the truth. But if you live in Venezuela, Argentina, a country in Africa, and you're dealing with double-digit inflation, and you switch to the dollar, it is life-changing. You've completely changed your life. Now you have the ability to receive payments, to save for the future. Like, it is a massive upgrade compared to your local fiat currency. But I think, this is my prediction, and so far we've been pretty accurate on the things that we've predicted here on Simply Bitcoin. I think that eventually, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, they're going to come to the same realization that we have come to here in the West. The same realization. So I think, and I'm sticking to this, stable coins are a Trojan horse for Bitcoin. It gets people comfortable with digital wallets, and it gets people comfortable with a non-sovereign alternative. Where does that lead? All roads lead to the best money. The best money is Bitcoin. That hasn't changed. So I agree with some parts of Gladstein's article. Opti actually has, to give him credit, has been saying this for most of the year. I know he was consuming Whitney Webb's content.
No, I wasn't. And I do like her content, though. Shout out Mark Goodwin.
And Mark Goodwin. And they kind of have been making the same case regarding stablecoins and Tether. I personally don't feel the same way about Tether. I'm a big fan of Tether. I think the Tether guys are hardcore Bitcoiners. I think they're doing fantastic. They're addressing a market need. The market is clearly indicating that it likes stablecoins. But I think eventually all roads lead to Bitcoin. It's just a hop away, right? I think, you know, if you look at if you look at USDT, it's kind of like functions as a checking account, and if you look at Bitcoin, it functions as a savings account, right? Like savings for the future. For now, I think eventually Bitcoin just becomes money as a whole. I think it becomes money to transact. I think it becomes money to save. But that's not where we are right now, and that's not me. That is what the market is indicating. That is not that's not what I want to happen, but that is what the market is showing. And fundamentally, if you are a free market maximalist, then you have to honor what the free market is telling you, because if you don't, you're going to wreck yourself, right? So you either kind of go down with this kind of interventionalist approach where, like, I know what's best and I'm going to determine what money people use, or the market, it decides by itself what money people choose to use. And so far, the market is deciding, hey, listen, specifically in the global South, we really like stable coins. Now, again, I think that's a Trojan horse, right? So to kind of weave it back in and summarize it, look, I think Trump is trying to keep the dollar alive. Obviously, it gives the U.S. government tremendous amount of power. I think Congress is doing the same thing. But at the same time, I think he's been a significantly better president for Bitcoin than the previous administration, right? So both things can be true at the same time. That's not to say that the next president, we expect more. Remember what I kept telling you guys? I told you guys, we got a pro-Bitcoin president in the White House. The next president, we want a anti-Fed president. We want a president that wants to end the Federal Reserve. That's the next step. That's what we should want as voters. That what we should expect from the next president as Bitcoiners. Because that fundamentally, if you want to know what's going wrong with the world, if you want to know why you can't afford things or you can't afford housing, it is central banking. Central banking is the number one cause for wealth inequality. You want to fix that, you have to end central banking, you have to end the Federal Reserve. Period. Full stop. Right? Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We still got the culture segment lined up. But before we get to it, I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors. OptiNight will be there, guys. You definitely don't want to miss it. It's going to be one of the best Bitcoin mining conference of the year. I'm talking about Mining Disrupt 2025. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas. Hashtag Opti is going back to Texas. If you use the QR code or the link in the video /podcast description, it will take you directly to the website where you will get a discount off of your tickets to Mining Disrupt 2025. It's going to be happening November 11th through the 13th. You're not going to want to miss it. Get your tickets now to the biggest Bitcoin mining conference in the world happening in Dallas, Texas. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video /podcast description. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, everybody, I'm taking over the culture segment today. Something atrocious happened over the last week or so, and Bitcoin is all about the ability to transact freely, without the fear of censorship, without the fear of censorship. You're able to speak your mind, and as Bitcoiners, especially during the previous election, we were talking a lot about the fact that freedom of speech was the front line for Bitcoin, and we lost someone that and again, this isn't a political show, guys, so we're not going to go into that, but we lost someone that was an ally of Bitcoin, that had a massive movement, specifically with the youth, that was a friend of Bitcoin. And he actually helped the Bitcoin movement tremendously. And he played an instrumental part in actually getting Ross free. And we lost him while he was doing what he loved. And we lost him while he was debating his ideas. And if we can't debate our ideas, we say this all the time. This is our main gripe with central bank digital currencies. If they don't want you speaking freely, what makes you think they're okay with you transacting freely? So I'm sure you guys all know who I'm talking about. And again, I'm going to stick to Bitcoin, of course. But we lost Charlie Kirk. This was a one in a generational person. He built the largest and fastest growing political movement in the youth in the United States. He started when he was 18, and unfortunately, he was taken from us at 31 years old. So what I'm going to talk about today is his contributions towards Bitcoin. I'm sure if you've been on the internet the last couple of days, you guys have seen his contributions towards everything else, but we are a Bitcoin show, and we're going to specifically focus on Bitcoin. This is someone that could have potentially been a president one day. So here's Ross. Ross is commenting, what was done to Charlie Kirk today is awful. Charlie, you were there for me when I needed you. I stand by you today, and I pray for your speedy recovery. Of course, this was before we knew what happened. Ross followed up with, like all of you, I am mourning Charlie Kirk. He stood up for his beliefs and passed away for them at 31, wearing a t-shirt that read freedom. As Bitcoiners, you guys know what I always say, Bitcoin, or what is the other alternative? At 31, my life was taken from me for standing up for what I believed in, and Charlie helped me get it back. He never took credit for it, but he played a big role in my freedom in many ways. Last year alone, when President Trump won the election, he asked Charlie what the number one thing he could do for him, and Charlie replied, free Ross. And in the days leading to my release, Charlie advocated for a full pardon. He did this and more without expectations of me. I wish there was something I could do to help Charlie get his life back, but there isn't, and I'm heartbroken. Charlie, I will always be grateful to you. Thank you for all you did for me, for our country. I pray for you and your beautiful family. Rest in peace. And this is a message by Ross Ulbricht to Charlie Kirk. Charlie was also a big fan of Bitcoin. I have a clip, and I'm going to play it, and then me and Opti will talk about it.
The reason why I think we should have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I know you guys had Michael Saylor on your show, and I think he's onto something. There is something called like the mass adoption theory, which is over a period of time, like the English language, US dollar, things just catch on and they're just kind of volitional and there's no stopping it. I think Bitcoin is that. You got to watch out though. Quantum computing could potentially crack cryptography.
But if they do that, then they're also cracking bank accounts.
Right.
And stock trading accounts.
So quantum is the only asterisk on all this. But I think Saylor is onto something very profound, which is that because Bitcoin is a scarce, legitimately scarce resource, that it's probably going to go nowhere but up. So Saylor makes a very provocative argument that Bitcoin could go up 10x over the next 10 years or something like that, which therefore, if we start a Bitcoin strategic reserve, it could like pay for the national debt and like basically cover our losses on the deficit. But I think that I think the United States government should be invested in crypto without a doubt.
I tend to agree with Michael Saylor that it's more likely to go to 1 million than 0.
Yes, I think that's right. And by the way, so you have a problem of the world's richest people. They don't know where to put their money. So there's only so many penthouses in London and Paris that they could buy. There's only so many ranches in Wyoming that they could buy. And so we've had this problem. So you create all this money, the money goes upwards to wealth inequality point. To your earlier point, The question is then, well, what do rich people do with money? There's only so many equities they can buy. There's only so many shares in NVIDIA and Apple and Microsoft they could justify. Well, money needs to find a home, and it's found a home in Bitcoin. And so once it has mass adoption, and literally the wealthiest families on the planet are starting to park serious monies in Bitcoin. And because it's scarce, it's easy to transfer, and it's just a winner. Sometimes there's a mass adoption, and
All right. So, like I said, this isn't a political show, but this was someone who was highly influential outside of the Bitcoin echo chamber that could have, he clearly was talking very positively about Bitcoin on his show, on other shows. There's a bunch of other videos that we just don't have time to play for you guys. But we lost an ally of our movement. And he unfortunately was taken from us while wearing a shirt that said freedom. And you heard the words by Ross talking about the fact that Charlie played an instrumental role in getting Ross free and getting Ross a full pardon. And those are Ross's words, and those aren't my words. It's not my opinion. So we lost an enormous figure in the Bitcoin movement that could have helped for Bitcoin adoption, the Bitcoin regulatory environment here in the United States, and my prayers are with him and his family. And he was persecuted for what he believed in. So that's all I got to say about that. Opti?
Yeah, I mean, I covered it last week, so I don't want to rehash what I was saying. But as I was kind of telling you guys on Monday, I am feeling a lot more hopeful than I did at the end of last week. I think over the weekend it was it felt like a very real possibility that we were going to go into even more tumultuous times, and I'm pretty happy and astonished to see that nothing really did happen over the weekend. In fact, I think it did the opposite. I think it brought people together. And so it's really been one of those eye-opening things of, man, life is so precious, and each and every one of us has a role to play in this Bitcoin movement. And we just got to continue to keep beating the drum and continue to push this freedom movement forward. And so, man, I'm just more than honored to be a part of it with you guys, and more than honored to have you guys listen to what we say. And the responsibility of being a talking head, I think, is super important, and that we have to continue to be cool, calm, collected, and just push this Bitcoin thing forward so that more people can benefit from it. So you guys heard my takes all over the weekend. Nico just hasn't been here for the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's a crazy thing to watch, but I think there's going to be a lot of positives that come out of this, even though it is such it was such a gruesome thing for all of us to watch. And so finally feeling back to normal, finally feeling like, okay, there's still a lot of work to be done. Show up day in and day out and put in the work for every single one of you guys, and I hope you guys do the same thing. So that's going to be my take, because I basically mourn with you guys live the last weekend. So yeah, man, it's crazy times, but I'm feeling very optimistic and hopeful of where we're going.
Absolutely. We are all Satoshi. We're all Charlie. We all stand for freedom of speech. And the Bitcoin movement lost a very, very powerful ally. Next man up. And this is a separation of money and state after all, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate to say the least. I think you guys haven't seen me. Of course, I've been traveling, but this has personally affected me deeply. And I didn't really watch his content so much, but just the significance of losing a one in a generational figure like that, specifically how it happened. The shirt he was wearing, what he was doing. If you can't communicate, if you can't debate your ideas, what are you supposed to do? Right. Anyways, I wish I could say more, but guys, before we tune in, we're gonna leave it on a more on a positive note.
Yeah, guy that was doing the Bitcoin address, get your Lightning wallet.
Yeah, we are going to be giving away some sats. By the way, if you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today, use the QR code or just go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, you will get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every time you play the wishing well contest, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. That's like more than $1,000 these days. We're going to play it live for you guys right now. Toss a coin into the wishing well. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won. What is the grand prize for today? 540 sats. So again, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Again, bitcoinwell.com/simply today, and you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Guys, we love you so much. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show, tuning in, and we're all Charlie. Smash the like button if you guys enjoy the content. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.